So we're going to go over some basic functions today over Photoshop and things that you need to know before you turn in any of your assignments. From this point forward, any assignment that you do, you'll have to follow these steps in Photoshop to turn it in to get full credit for the picture. So the first thing you do, once you pick your picture in Bridge that you want to use, that you want to turn in for your final grade, is to just double click on it and that'll open it automatically in Photoshop. Now, immediately I notice my workspace isn't set up the way I want it to look, so I'm going to go up here and click on Window, Workspace, and Reset to Essentials. And so that's going to take it back to its original setting. So if you ever find it where your workspace doesn't look the way that you're accustomed to and you want to get it back to that, that's all you need to do is go to Window, Workspace, and then Reset Essentials, and I'll take you right back to the way it looks normally. Now there are several steps that you want to take when you're doing this. The first one that you want to take a lot of times is to straighten your picture, and you want to do that before you crop it. As you can see, this picture is a little crooked. If we look down the side here, it's more narrow here at the bottom than it is at the top, and here it's more narrow at the top than it is at the bottom. And we can look and see that this platform isn't straight. So I want to straighten it. And you can find that by clicking on the crop tool, which is this tool right here, and then up at the top where it says straighten. And I'm going to click on the straighten tool and it gives me a ruler. And then what you need to do is find a spot on the photo that is straight. Now right now it wants to crop it into a 16 by 9 shape. I want this to say unconstrained. I don't want to be constrained by the size there, so I'm going to go to 16 by 9. And then I'm going to click on straighten, and I'm going to find a spot that I think is straight. First of all, I need to fix this picture to get back out so it's not going to crop it more than I want it to. Okay, now I'm back to the crop. Now it has the whole picture selected. Now I'll click on straighten, and I'm going to just find a straight spot. And I know that this platform is relatively level, so I'm going to just drag it across along the line of that, and then it's going to straighten it up. And then I just double click and it crops it. Now this may or may not be my final crop on this picture, but we want to do that before we do our final crop, because if you crop it too much and then straighten it, you're going to be left, it's going to cause a problem for you. So this is pretty straight now, so I'm going to leave it like that. Now I can go ahead and crop it into whatever size and shape I want it to be. You really want to avoid as much as possible cropping pictures so they are square. Most of the time you're gonna want to leave your pictures in a horizontal, which is this direction, or vertical, which is more up and down. All right, and if you right now it's unconstrained, so I can move these boxes wherever I want, crop it any way in any shape I want. Now if we go up here, it gives you an aspect ratio. If you want, say you want a 5 by 7 or an 8.5 by 11, you can click on that and it'll keep it in the proportion of what would fit for an 8.5 by 11. So if you're going to do a picture for a frame and you know it's going to be an 8.5 by 11, you can do that. If you want it to be in a 5 by 7, it would crop it this way. So it's a little bit different depending on the size that you want. But I'm going to just crop this picture unconstrained to whatever ratio I want. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Whenever we're cropping pictures, you never want to crop right on top of somebody's head. You never want to crop at an ankle, we talked about that, or a knee, or somewhere like that. So we're going to just crop this picture. I'm going to bring it up to the bottom of the platform here. And then I want to leave it so I don't want to be that close to the top of their head. I like that green in this picture, so I'm going to raise it up a little bit to here, and I'm going to crop it. And then once you get it the size that you want, and notice that there's also a grid here that helps you with the rule of thirds, which doesn't really apply in this picture. But you can use that grid to help you line up the rule of thirds too if you didn't actually crop it in the camera when you were taking the picture. And now that I've got to this point where I got the picture the way I want it, I'm going to double click on it. And then that's the size my picture is going to be now. But to be honest with this picture, I like it the way that it was, so I'm not going to crop it that much. So I'm going to hit Control-Z and go back to the way it was originally and just come up here on the bottom a little bit. I'm going to leave all that space on the top because I like it. and I'm going to double click. But anytime you want to go back a step, you can hit Control Z and it'll go back one step. If I hit Control Z, it goes back a step. If I hit Control Z again, it goes back to where I just was. If you need to go back multiple steps, one easy way to find that is to go up and click on Window and to go onto History. And then here are the different steps that I've taken so far. So if I click on Open, it's going to go back to where I was originally when we opened up the picture. So I can click on Open and it's going to go back to the beginning. If I click on Crop, that's after we straightened it. And now I'm going to click on Crop again, and that's after I made that last crop. So all of my history will be on here. It only saves so many steps. So at times you might want to save it along the way if you think that you've got somewhere that you might want to go back to that point later on, because if you do a bunch of things, it'll start eliminating some of the steps in the history. But again, that's under Windows, and then History is where you can find that. So after I've straightened the picture and then cropped the picture the way I wanted, the next thing I want to do is work on the colors. The colors in this picture are pretty good, but they're somewhat flat, and that will happen sometimes depending on the conditions that you're in. But that's where Photoshop is just an excellent tool, because you can fix those colors up. And I'm going to hit Control Plus right now to make this a little bit bigger so we can just see a little bit more detail when we go in here. But I'm going to click on Levels, and we have this histogram that pops up. And the levels on the left are the dark, and on the right are the light. In the middle are what are called the midtones. So we can see here that there's no dark in this range of the photo. So I'm going to bring this over to where that dark just shows up, starts showing up. And we're not losing any information because there's no information down there. And we're going to just take it to here where it starts to peak. Now while there is some white here, it's the white in the shirt here, I'm going to go ahead and bring this over just a little bit, and to just bring out a little bit of the brightness. And you can see if I go way over, it just blows it out. So we just want to go a little bit. And if there were no colors like there is on the left side, we would bring it to where it starts to peak, and I'm going to still do that. Then I'm going to bring the midtones over just a little bit to add a little bit more depth to the colors. Now I'm going to close up this, and you can see the difference right away just by clicking on this. So there I'm turning off that layer, and here I'm showing that layer again. And you can see the difference how that pops already. But there's a couple more steps that we're going to do to bring out even more colors. I'm going to go to the color balance and click on that and add a color balance level. And this lets me adjust the colors in 3 different stages. And then we're going to just work in midtones here. And I'm going to go and bring out some more of that red. I'm looking at the brick because I kind of know what color that brick is supposed to be. So I'm going to bring out the red in the brick a little bit. And you're just going to move it over a little bit. You don't want to go over too far. If you go over too far, it's going to make everything super red. You go over the other way, it's taking the red out and adding the cyan. So we're going to go like that. I'm going to add a little green to it, just a little bit, and then I think I'm going to add a little blue to it as well. So now I'm going to close this up, and you can see how that changed it just a little bit. Just look at the green, and you can also change that. I'm going to double click on this again. Oops, I want to click on this. You can change the colors with the shadows and add some red to the shadows as well if you want to. Change the colors there. And the same thing with the highlights in it. Change those a little bit. And I'm just doing this quickly. You're going to spend more time on this. I'm going to close that up, and you can see where it's changed. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key and click here, and that's going to eliminate both of those layers. So now you can see we've gone from that to that with those 2 steps. And then the last step we're going to look at is the vibrance and saturation. So we've straightened the picture, then we cropped the picture, we did levels, color balance, and vibrance. And you want to do them in this order. I'm going to just add a little bit of vibrance to this, and you can see the tones are changing. It's just adding more depth. I don't want to go all the way that far, that's too much. But maybe about right there. And then we can add saturation, which is just adding more color to it. Okay, I'm going to close this up, show you how that changed it. You can see the difference, turn that off and on. So we've gone from this to this. And that's a much better looking picture. Again, here's the whole picture. Whoops, clicked on the wrong thing. Forgot to hold down the Alt key there, so I'm going to click on that. That's where we started, and that's where we are now. And that picture looks pretty good now with the colors like that. So, those are the initial steps that you need to take with your picture. Now, there's one more thing that you need to do. Well, there's actually a couple more things. Once you've completed all this and you think you have it where you want it, you need to go over to this menu on the right and click on that, and then go to Flatten Image. And what that does is it takes all those layers that we had and combines them back to the original, back to one layer. You have to think about the layers like pieces of paper, where there's pieces of paper on top of each other, and now we need to squish it back into one piece of paper. So you'll need to flatten that. If you go to Image and look at your image size, this is a very big picture right now. Right now it's 70 inches tall, which is almost 6 feet tall. So it's a very large picture. We don't really need it that big. I'm going to change the width here to 8 inches just to make the file smaller. And you can see it's gone from a 50 meg file to a 1.3 meg file. When I change the width, it also changes the height to keep it in proportion. I'm going to hit OK to change that. The picture's still big. That's at 12%. So here's the actual size of the picture. So it's still quite big. Okay, so we've changed the image size. And then the last thing that you want to do, and this is probably the most important step, is whenever you save a picture, you want to always make sure that you're saving it as a copy. Don't ever save over your original, because if you screw something up and you save over the original, you cannot go back. So I want to go to File, Save As, and all I ever want you guys to do, I want you to always save them as a JPEG, and all you have to do to change it is to type _edit at the end. We want our file name to remain the same, and we're just going to add _edit. So if we find this picture and we see something wrong with it, we know exactly which picture to go back to. It's a very important step. So you just want to add the _edit, hit save, make it as large as it'll be, hit OK, and then that's saved. Now when I go back to Bridge, that picture is saved right here. Here's the original one, and here's the edited one. You can see the file names are the same, except this one says 0173 _edit, and this one just says 0173. So that's all you really have to do to edit your pictures. You're going to do this for every assignment that you turn in. For the photo that you turn in, you're going to follow these steps. And again, the steps are, you're going to start by opening up the picture, then you're going to straighten it, then you're going to crop it, then you're going to go to your levels and adjust your levels. You're going to adjust your color balance, and then you're going to adjust your vibrance. Those are the steps that you will follow every time. Straighten, crop, levels, color balance, and vibrance. And that's all you have to do. So this is one thing that we'll do every time for Photoshop. There's a ton of things that you can do in this program, and we'll get to more of those as we go on. But these are the basics that you need to know, and you will get graded on this for every assignment on how well you do that. And I hope you enjoy this tutorial, and I will see you when I return.